Amateur Radio News and Notes for Friday, May 2nd, 2025. I'm Ed Kavik, November 2 Echo Charlie. In the log this week, we'll recap MVARC's monthly meeting and breakfast. We'll get a DXpedition update for the ZSAW Marion Island DXpedition. We'll talk about MVARC Nets on the air, see what's happening with DX, get a solar activity update, talk about some upcoming contests, and go into some interesting online radio content. Last weekend, we had our breakfast and monthly meeting. Once again, we had a great turnout for breakfast and a great time was had. Michael KQ4RUO and Joseph WB8KMJ brought in a battery system with a solar charging setup and gave it away at the breakfast to another lucky member. After breakfast, we made it over to our monthly meeting where we had a fascinating presentation from Andy K1RA about multi-band, multi-mode digital decoding and reporting using SDRs. Andy showed us how he built his station and how he shares that data with amateur radio operators around the world. He also had some insights on how someone starting out can learn more about SDRs and get started. Thanks to Andy K1RA for his talk, and thanks to everyone who joined us to make it such a fun morning. We hope to see you at the next one. Eurus YL2GM has arrived at Marion Island and has begun operations as of April 27th. His travel on the ship S.A. Agelhas II was delayed by a day from the port of Cape Town, South Africa, leaving on the 18th. The ship arrived at Marion Island on April 22nd, but weather made disembarkation impossible. It wasn't until April 27th that Eurus was able to take a flight to the island and begin his operations. He got 9,957 QSOs in his club log before announcing yesterday that he'll be off the air for up to 3 days to make repairs to his antennas. So expect him to be back on the air in about 2 more days. Eurus is planning to be active on 166 meters on CW, single sideband, and FT8 through May 16th, 2025. You can see more updates from Eurus at dxworld.net/ZSAW-Marion-Island and check the ZS8W club log at clublog.org. And now let's talk about some MVARC nets that are on the air. Our 2-meter FM net happens every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on the repeater and is followed immediately thereafter by a C4 FM digital net using Yaesu's System Fusion. On the weekends, we've got the MVARC Slow Speed CW Roundtable on Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. on 3.565 megahertz on CW. We usually do about 12 to 15 words a minute, but we'll slow down to whatever you're comfortable at. And also the MVARC Cherry Tree Net follows afterwards Saturday and Sunday at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Time at 3.920 megahertz lower sideband. And of course, we always love to have you around for the conversation. And now let's talk about what's happening with DX. There'll be a lot of DX on the air in the next week. Stations on the air will include Tuawa'i Island and the Austral Islands, which had a pretty strong signal in the last week. Marion Island, we talked about before. Also Cabo Verde, Angola, Marcus Island, Minami-Torishima Islands, Majuro Atoll and the Marshall Islands, Solomon Islands, and Antarctica. A calendar of DXpeditions can be found at dxnews.com/calendar. And now it's time for the solar update. As we go to press, the solar flux index was 153 and the estimated sunspot number was 78. Over the last week, the SFI has decreased. Solar activity has been at moderate levels recently, and there are 5 numbered sunspot regions visible here on Earth. Solar wind has been slightly enhanced with a speed of 460 kilometers a second. Geomagnetic activity is expected to be quiet to unsettled levels today, with quiet to active levels forecast tomorrow. KP index values today are expected to be below 4. Solar wind is expected to be normal today, with enhancement tomorrow at the arrival of a coronal hole high-speed stream and negative polarity. Minor G1 storms are expected tomorrow as a result. The chance of solar radiation storms at the S1 or greater level is low at 1%. R1 to R2 radio blackouts are possible with a predicted probability of 50%. R3 or greater blackouts are unlikely with a 10% chance predicted. There's a reasonable chance of 6-meter propagation, so keep an eye on the band and spotting clusters and be ready for openings. HF conditions have been favorable overall, and it remains a fantastic time for amateurs of all licensed classes to get on the air and work the world. Good sources of real-time solar information include spaceweatherlive.com and solarham.com. A good overview of conditions can be found at dx.qsl.net/propagation. To see D-layer absorption data and associated radio blackouts, visit the NOAA DRAP page. And to see real-time maximum usable frequency and critical frequency FOF2 information from RadioSON data, visit prop.kc2g.com. And now let's talk about some upcoming contests. On the contest calendar this weekend, we can look forward to the 1010 International Spring Contest on CW, the RCC Cup, the SBMS 2.3 GHz and Up Contest and Club Challenge, the Microwave Spring Sprint, the ARI International DX Contest, the F9AA Cup on PSK, the 7th Call Area QSO Party, the Indiana QSO Party, the Delaware QSO Party, the New England QSO Party, the WAB 7 MHz Phone Contest, the MIE 33 Contest, and, as always, the K1USN SSTs, the MSTs, and the CWTs will also be on the air. The full contest calendar with events and exchanges can be found at contestcalendar.com. All right, let's close it out now with some interesting online radio content. A lot of it this week. Kevin W1DED talks to B-Dale KB0G about the ARDC and the 44net. A very interesting conversation this week. Josh KI6NAZ talks about the FCC filing for a potential 100-watt amplifier for the upcoming Yaesu FTX1F all-band, all-mode QRP rig. Matt M0DQW takes a look at the new HF009 portable antenna. Dan WD4DAN gives us a tour of his shack. Mike K8MRD puts up a Spec 5 solar Meshtastic relay. Josh KK4WDP bikes up the Sino Canal to activate POTA with his XYL. IMSI Guy tears apart a Collins mechanical filter. Mark KD7DTS gives an intro presentation on how to activate SOTA. Walt K4OGO takes a look at a new version of the ATU 100 antenna tuner. And in a blast from the past, there's an ARRL-made film from 1970 called This is Ham Radio. Hayden VK7HH takes a look at the Quansheng TK11. Kevin 2E0 Whiskey Mike Golf uses an AliExpress antenna with a Slidewinder coil. Steve KM9G takes a look at the tiny SA Ultra Plus Spectrum Analyzer. Josh KI6NAZ speculates about a possible new radio from Lab 599. Lucas W1BTR takes a look at an assortment of cheap radio gear from AliExpress to see if they're junk or if they're worth it. Kevin KB9RLW finds a way to have two simultaneous CAT connections to an IC705. Walt K4OGO makes a ground plane antenna with 5 telescopic whips. Kevin 2E0 Whiskey Mike Golf activates a new island by Kayak. Matt M0DQW shows how to add Wi-Fi control to an antenna rotor. Forrest KI7QCF gives his thoughts on paddles and keys ahead of Hamvention. Simon VA7BIX uses a Mylar blanket as a reflector with a vertical antenna to great results. Walt K4OGO builds a Rubikov antenna from his new book. Rob N1NUG takes a look at the SI 4732 pocket radio. Duff WA7BFN gives us the latest edition of the LICW podcast. Mike K8MRD likes the programmability of a Bluetooth-enabled lithium iron phosphate battery. Sean W9FFF visits the Modern Morse factory to see how they machine their paddles. Dugbo KD7DUG makes a CW contact on 2 meters with a Quansheng UVK5 for SOTA. Matt M0DQW takes a look at the new SDR-based TV software for DATV. Michael KB9VBR adds a 4-to-1 to make his Res Scout antenna do much better as a delta loop. Steve KM9G takes a look at a 280 amp hour lithium iron phosphate battery. Kevin W1DED talks with Tim K3LR about Contest University. Mike K8MRD takes a look at the REZ Scout as a linked dipole. Josh KI6NAZ compares the QRP Labs QMX, the Jaegu G106, the ZBitX, and True SDX QRP radios. And Vince VE6LK takes a look at internet connectivity for the ZBitX. And that's it for this week. I'm Ed, November 2 Echo Charlie for Amateur Radio News and Notes. Thanks as always for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. Best 73. We'll see you next week.